Hi there, welcome back to the Ginescast. I'm your host, Gina.annunziato. Thank you so much for joining me. We're moving up, we're moving on, we're doing all sorts of different things here on this cast, and I'm going into the solo interview aspect of things. This is a nice, wonderful chat that I had with Kate Hyde, who I found on Twitter one time, and I knew I just had to talk to her, and once you hear this conversation, you'll understand why. You can follow Kate on Twitter at KateHydeNY. And I promise you won't be disappointed by her Twitter feed or this conversation. So please, without further ado, sit back and listen to the Ginescast number 23, Taking Polititwitter's Temperature with Kate Hyde. Being a conservative in this political climate is not always the easiest. Sure, you'll hear people on the Donald subreddit talk about how much we're winning all the time, but that can get really old really fast. I'm not going to name names on who I'm thinking of right now because I'm going to Politicon in a couple days and I don't want to rock the boat here. But there are some online who take this winning mindset and really amplify it to a point where it gets very difficult to adhere to the conservative label. However, if you search and you actually want to find things, they usually come your way. Finding someone who is confident in what they say and owns what they say and is able to reach across the aisle and look at how the other side is doing things while maintaining that your side is not perfect, that seems to be a rare thing to do. Luckily, my viewers have always been these kinds of people, and I think I like to think that I attracted these kinds of people as well. Humor in this political climate seems to be devolving in some way. Week after week, we get stories about how SNL has kind of lost the plot or just is not funny anymore, or how the late night hosts just simply say the same thing over and over again. You've got these memes coming out from Poll or Reddit that are cringy and crazy, featuring Elizabeth Warren with an Indian headdress on and crossed eyes. It's just not seemingly funny anymore. So it's a real treat when you see someone who has the ability to make fun of everybody that is being crazy in this world right now, which is why I was very excited to talk to our next guest. Please welcome to the Ginescast, Miss Kate Hyde.
Hi, hello.
Hello, thank you so much for joining me. I very much appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Great. So, like I was saying, the way that I found you was through this phenomenon called fugal singing, which I think you've kind of coined this hashtag, have you not?
I think actually, if you look back, fugal singing went back before I was even on Twitter, I believe. I think there were a few guys that were making fun of John Fugelsang, who is, I think he's most well known for, right now he has an XM radio show, but he's also the guy who co-hosted America's Funniest Home Videos with Daisy Fuentes.
I think that's really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It was a short stint, but I think that's how I know him best. And then he kind of just floats around the internet. And there were a few other guys. If you look back, I'm sure you'll see who it was that I think coined fugal sanging as the term of what fugal sang does is he does so many things. But one of the things that he does is he will retweet people's memes that they make of him with his picture and a tweet or a quote that he said, and he'll retweet it. So he shares pictures of himself with what he, has said over it all the time. And that was the original fugal singing. So I found that to be funny. There was a lot of things I found about him that entertaining. So, in watching him, one day a tweet of his came up and I was like, oh, that something about this just feels familiar. Have I heard it before somewhere else or whatever it was? It made me search. Has he said this before or something similar? And when I searched, I saw he had tweeted the same exact tweet or maybe a slight, change in the wording, but it was like 10 times in a row. And I was like, oh, wow.
Over different years too.
Over different years. Yeah. And then I just kept looking and all of his pretty generic tweets Yeah, he's been reusing them for years. So I have nothing against Fugelsang personally. I happen to think that I would love to sit down and have a chat with him. I think that's what's so fun about the world of Twitter and political Twitter is that
Right.
Fugelsang and I don't think we would agree on anything politically. But I
Right.
have a feeling that, if we sat down, had a cup of coffee, we would be able to laugh together. And that's the sort of like dynamic. When I'm poking fun at him, I want him to poke fun at me back. And it's not personal and it's not, I'm not going after him and I'm not making fun of him, in a mean way. It's more just pointing out something really funny that he does all the time. And
Absolutely.
that's how Fugle singing has evolved.
Well, it's brilliant, and every time it crosses my timeline, I'm just like, oh my god, I cannot believe this guy. Just it's like maybe this tweet will be the one that'll get me the most
Right?
likes and retweets.
Yeah, it's great to grade him, see like, ooh, you know what? You changed the word here and it didn't do as well. Go back a few years and reuse that one. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the kind of tweeting I note that you're doing, and the reason I feel like I picked up on what your online persona is so much is because you're a female who's conservative in the bluest state in the entire world.
Right.
If it's correct in me calling you conservative.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the easiest way to put it. I mean,
Mhm.
like anything else, I never really align with any group. I've never really joined clubs or tagged on to one side or another,
Right.
but I would definitely say that I fall right on the political spectrum. But yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, conservative. I'll go for it.
That
No,
sounds good.
no,
Yeah,
no.
I'm starting this thing where I'm trying to, put at least one label upon myself, just so people can see the lens that I'm looking at things through, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely helps as a guide. And like anything else, if you're a rational person, you understand that anyone who self labels or is labeled, everyone goes in different directions with their thoughts and opinions. It's
Hmm.
really hard for so many people to be perfectly umbrellaed in the same category and agree on everything. So, yeah,
Right.
like anything else, it's start conservative, start right wing, and go from there, see where you agree and disagree. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I enjoy the fact that, you kind of take the pot shots at everybody that, no matter what kind of um, slant they may have, it's just like, oh, calling out the bullshit from from
Right.
every corner of the internet, which there's tons of it to sift through.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Um, mhm.
I'm proud when someone says, I don't really know which way you fall. You're just making fun of everything. I'm like, yes, another successful day.
You're
Love
like
it.
South Park.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Yeah.
hit everything that needs to be hit.
Absolutely, and it's great because I mean I'd love to get your take on the temperature you're taking on the political climate right now because you know obviously Democrats right now are in a sense losing their shit in a way. That's what it looks like, and that's what you're seeing going on coming from not just protesters or people like activists online. You're seeing it happen on media. How the media is portraying their opinions. Like you just had Brooke Baldwin and CNN say freaking out that someone used the word mob on
Right.
like on her program, which is just that. How did we get there? But I also do feel like that there's the conservatives out there that I've labeled like cringe conservatives, like they're super duper like MAGA heavy and like
Yeah.
Trump does no wrong ever, like I love everything God Emperor does, so there's really no like sweet spot anymore. I feel like it's especially online, it's like either one way or the other. But I'd love to get your take on what your feeling of the political climate is on and off Twitter. Either way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you called it cringe conservative because
Thank
I've
you.
been calling them recently the cringe right and the cringe left, and they're the same. Once you
Oh
go
yeah.
too far in one direction, it's painful. Um, and I do feel like the normalcy of the people who can escape that sort of um, tribalism. I know that's a word that's used a lot, but the people that can escape the tribalism, I do feel like that falls a lot with right-leaning people a lot more.
Mm.
I think the left, the liberals who were okay over the Obama years are now saying, oh my gosh, we're losing. We need to step it up. I mean, just today you heard Eric Holder say, we're
Mm-hmm.
no longer doing Michelle Obama's mantra of when they go low, we go high. When they go low, we kick them or whatever.
When we kick them. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
it was really fun for them when they were on top, and it was calm. And conservatives or the right or whatever, what you got in response to that was the Tea Party,
Mm-hmm.
and the reaction that you had to the Tea Party was, again, with Brooke Baldwin, people were calling them mobs or, oh my gosh, look at them protesting, throwing fits, and all of that. And the truth was, it wasn't that violent. Again, you had the cringe right, and maybe some people took it too far, but as a
Mm-hmm.
whole, it wasn't that extreme. Now you're seeing that the mainstream anger of people on the left that are losing, it's like nothing we've ever seen. And they continue to lose the further they go down that rabbit hole. They're very, I find that to survive in this sort of political climate, you have to not be reactionary. And
Right.
that is where I think people find me just falling in the middle. It's because I like to stay at 30,000 feet above everything and make fun of everything because I feel like humor is very uniting. I think it's a unifier, and I'm not really the type to kind of hold on to some sort of. I find that the left and some people on the right, they're holding on to some sort of challenge, like they have to be a victim in one way or another because it gives them, that indignation to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
We're in this together. Look at how we're being beaten down and this, that. And I'm just saying, you know what? No, let's take a step back. Let's laugh at it all. And I mean, really, we should be trying to unite. And if the other side or our side is going to get angry, it's really not worth responding in anger. And I
Right.
see that a lot now with people on the right. The crazier that the left gets, people on the right go, no, we need to fight back. This is going to be civil war. And I'm saying, no, all it takes is to just keep a happy face on, smile, call them out for being wrong, and move on.
Right.
You're not going to win getting as cringy as the cringe factor is on the left. It's just not going to happen. So
Right.
that I think that's what it is. It's take a step back, look at the big picture, find what unites us, and just don't get into the weeds about it. But
Absolutely. Because there is that sense that, either side of the either extreme, they're trying to portray that they're so much better than the other side, but then they're doing these things that are, for lack of a better word, uncivil. Like the Eric Holder example. Like, you don't. Why would you kick somebody? Like, that's just stupid to say. Or like these protesters, which I did want to get in with you because you went to DC after the Kavanaugh confirmation and you saw the protesters firsthand. The people who were literally beating down the walls of the Supreme Court. Like, what is that accomplishing? But you also have people who are praising that. Like, I remember after the Women's March, I deactivated Facebook, but I saw on my Facebook people were just, oh, sisters,
mhm.
we did it. It's like, what'd you do? You stood around. You had a lot of numbers. Like, you have to give them props. Like, yeah, a lot of people came out, but what the hell did you do?
It
Like,
was a big party, and it was fun.
right. We had a blast at the protest. Like, I don't think you really are supposed to come back from a protest saying like I had fun, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it depends what your intentions are for going, but yeah, probably.
of course.
Empowered should be more than fun.
Right, exactly. Could you tell me about your trip to DC and what that was like? Because you went with I guess conservative commentator Jesse Kelly as well, right? And
Yeah, I teamed up with him when I was down there.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was interesting. I had never done anything in DC at all. I'd never even done it as a tourist, so it was a whole new
Mm,
experience. It was a last minute decision of, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna check this out.
nice.
Um, and I didn't really go with any true intentions. I just said, let's go check it out. So yeah, I went to the Supreme Court. I was there before the Kavanaugh vote,
Hmm.
and it was interesting because again, it's so different than you see on TV. I didn't feel threatened. The people that were, all riled up, they're harmless. They're just there
Right.
protesting their signs. It's no big deal.
Right.
What I did find interesting was there was a while when some people are just loony, and I think they know they're loony. They're screaming, doing all that. But there were some people that were walking around with signs and were very anti-Kavanaugh. But when you spoke to them, it was like, you know what? These are decent people. No, these
Right.
don't mean anyone harm. And you just you're so you feel like they're so disconnected from reality. But at the end of the day, I was like, there's nothing wrong with this person. We're not trying to talk to them and get a gotcha moment, you know. Um,
Right.
they're just they're just people on the other side being decent. And I think it really did open my eyes a lot to just seeing that and really being embedded with those people. Just like not everyone is as loony as the looniest people, and I think it's good to remind ourselves of that once in a while because you know when you
Right.
look,
Right.
you get the craziest of
Mm-hmm.
crazy all over. But yeah, no, it was a fun scene. It was an interesting scene, and yeah, it was an experience for sure.
Have you been to protests in Manhattan before?
I've never been as a anything like a reporter or even an observer. I've had them come out of nowhere and be really close to me before.
Oh,
I remember being down by the World Trade Center and there was some Occupy Wall Street march going on. I had no idea, and they just walked by and went, "Whoa,
right.
that hit
Yeah.
me out of nowhere." But no,
Yeah.
I haven't really been a part of it. I try to stay away from that, to be honest. It's not in my personality to run into the fire, to
Mm.
start an issue with anybody, or again, when I'm seeing it on TV, I go, that doesn't look safe. It doesn't look fun.
Right.
I don't need to be there. So no, I had never thrown myself into a protest like that. But after doing it this time, I said, oh, okay, I can do that again. I can walk around. That was
Oh
kind
yeah.
of
Oh yeah, because I mean, the first protest I ever went to was the day after Trump was elected,
Mhm.
just because I wanted to see why people were mad, you know, and so we're there in Union Square, and you know, I happen upon the scene, and there's like, you know, there's a shitload of people there, and every so often there would just be like a chant that would rise and then fall. And the one that creeped me out the most, and I got it on camera, was like I wanted to, you know, document this occurrence, and they all started saying "end rape culture, end rape culture." I was like, oh my god, like it like freaked me out. I was like, this is just like, what does that mean?
have
You
you
know?
have you ever experienced the human microphone? Do you know what that is?
I've seen it. I've seen it during Occupy
Uh-huh.
protests that I would watch. Have you ever watched Adam Kokesh? Do you know who that is?
Oh, the name sounds familiar. I might have seen some stuff.
Yeah, he's a libertarian. He's a former Marine. He, you know, he ran for Congress, I believe. Like he's got a fascinating YouTube
I do.
channel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
He went to a lot of Occupy protests. That's why I wanted to. He kind of inspired me to like go to protest myself. You know,
Mhm.
he went to all the ones when was that 2011 already when Occupy was happening?
Yeah,
Oh Jesus God, I'm so
I know.
old. Um, he went to the ones in D.C. and they would do that thing where they would start speaking and then everybody would repeat what they're saying. That's the human microphone.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's something I've only seen this year with all of this Kavanaugh protesting, and whoo, my gosh, that's a painful. That is like the definition of uh, groupthink.
Yeah.
You know, it's a creepy, culty thing to watch, and I hope to never be asked to be a part of one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you really, I guess you hear somebody's voice and it's so profound that you have to just say it because everybody else needs to hear it too. But like if their voice was that profound, wouldn't people just kind of naturally listen to them? Like, why do you have to keep repeating
Yeah,
it? You know
stand
what
on
I
the
mean?
box and speak a little louder. You don't need all of us to repeat every third word that you say.
Exactly. Just get a bullhorn, guys. It's
Yeah,
fine. You know?
get Soros to buy you one of those.
Yeah.
Got the money.
That's so fascinating. That's one of those things that like I haven't quite dove into, but I will say that some of the I can't say on here, but some of the people that I have worked for were definitely in the deep dive area of the deep state, you know. But there's things about that guy that I just have to question all
Yeah.
sorts of things, you know.
I I just love that he funds the left, the Koch brothers fund the right, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if it's true or not, just always blame one of those guys, and tends to work.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Um, I just think it's interesting that, and I did want to get your take about the protesters that you did speak to, because I've spoken to protesters too, and you do get the sense that, people, like, it's not a simple thing to just get out of your home and stand in the street to, stand for what you believe in. Like, that's in itself is a noble thing,
Mhm.
from face value. But it, and we were talking about cringe conservatives before. It kind of feels like there's some on the right that are kind of grasping at low-hanging fruit too much, where they get the hysterical left, and I understand that that's a part of it, but like, when are they going to start talking to like the walk away Democrats who like can form a coherent thought and not be screaming all the time? Like, how do you see that gap bridged? Is that even possible on Twitter, or is it something that has to occur in IRL,
You know what? I think it is possible. You're right, though. I call it bumper sticker. I mean, there's a term for everything, I guess, right? But I call it bumper sticker conservatism that I just can't stand. It's going after, again, the low hanging fruit,
Mm-hmm.
putting on display the people just kicking and screaming, wearing all black and masks, and
Mm-hmm.
asking them, well, do you lock your house? Well, then why don't we put up a fence around the country? It's the same thing. It's like it's just we've heard it all before.
Right.
It's easy, it's simple, and it's not showing any real critical thinking at this point. Like, you're making a good point, but let's move on from that. What I find so interesting is, I don't know if you've been following, but there's people like, Jordan Peterson
Mm-hmm.
and Ben Shapiro
Mm-hmm.
and Dave Rubin and those guys that don't all align politically. They're getting together and everyone's saying it's this revolutionary, it's the revolution of our time because it's people, I guess, competing minds getting together for intriguing dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating. I think it's great, even because you're listening in the side that you don't agree with. They're making great points, and I love listening to it all. But what I find so fascinating is that we are so hungry for a very simple, common sense dialogue that is championed so much at this point,
Right.
that it just takes someone basically coming out and saying, yeah, let's have some common sense. Let's talk about why we don't agree. Let's not go low. Let's not make fun of the way that you look. Let's not make fun of the mistake that you made on TV the other day, as a point on our side. Like,
Right.
so I think the solution, which you see it on Twitter too, it just doesn't stand out as much. It really is just, let's take a deep breath, put a smile on, and let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple conversation that I think, some people are, I don't know, afraid to have. They don't have the confidence to have a conversation because they don't want to be proven wrong. And maybe that's where I'm coming from with it, that I don't think it's so hard. It's because I want to be proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong all the time. I surround myself with people who I can learn from, and I make them explain things to me, and I will ask them the dumbest questions just to be like, okay, it's just not making sense in my mind. This is why I think this. Tell me why I'm wrong. I
Right.
want to know. Compel me to think otherwise. And if you can't, it's just, maybe it's above me, or maybe it's just because it's hammering in my own belief, but at least I tried.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people are lacking. And people are riled up, and it's hard to get there if you're reactive and emotional, but
Right. Absolutely. Because
get there.
who like, it's not fun to be proven wrong when you're like actively not seeking that out.
Right.
So when someone calls you out on your shit, you're just like, oh
Yeah.
crap. Like, I'm shriveling, it's terrible. Do you think though that it's hard because I like my life lens, I guess, is like I see both sides of the coin simultaneously
Mhm.
all the time, and it's like maddening sometimes.
Right.
But like I was just kind of wrestling with which quote unquote side do I think is the more like hysterical at this point? Like, is it really the left, or is it the right? There's an argument that can be made for both sides. Like, which one do you think right now which side, I guess for lack of a better word, is the one that kind of needs to, I guess, balk first, like, or blink first? Like, which side is it going to be that's going to, ignite this conversation that we desperately need to have?
I do think that the left or the extreme anti-Trumpers, whatever you want to call it, I do think they need to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it with Kavanaugh. The thing, it wasn't just that they were going after Kavanaugh for the sexual assault, charges and
Mm-hmm.
saying he can't be on the Supreme Court because of that. It was, people forget that a half day before any of that came out, they were saying anything to stop Kavanaugh, anything.
Right.
We need to stop this man. It doesn't matter that he's qualified. It doesn't matter any of that. We need to stop him. And that's when they started digging, and, finding stuff that might not have been true. They had their claws out. And I think when you're so desperate that you have your claws out, we saw it with Romney, that it was like, hey, the reason we have Trump, I mean, you've heard it before, but the reason we have Trump is because you destroyed Romney. And now
Mm-hmm.
you're all going, oh, Romney wasn't that bad. Yeah, he wasn't that bad, but you said he murdered dogs and he killed women with, that had cancer and all of that. And it was like, take a deep breath, pull your claws back in, and let's do something here. Because I think there's a lot of people that really want to be, they want to be happy on their liberal side. I think,
Yeah.
and that's what's pushing them to the right. So I think when they're pushing so many of their own people or people on that side or whatever away to the right, I think that shows you which side is the craziest. I have not heard many people going further left after all of this.
Right.
And maybe I'm missing that. Maybe that's not in my world, but I'm out there and I'm looking, and you don't hear it. All you hear is, "Oh my gosh, I was so anti-Trump. I didn't vote for him. That's it. I'm voting for him in 2020." Like, this is
Yeah.
hurt. So I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, you're right. You don't hear that other side shift. You don't hear someone who says, like, I was a conservative and, like, I voted for Trump, but now I'm not. I mean, there's some. I feel like CNN or MSNBC kind of pulls them from obscurity and puts them on air and be like, look, see, guys, see, there's people who don't like him. It's like, well, I voted for the guy, and I don't necessarily like everything that he's doing, but I went out on a date like 2 weeks ago, and of course to talk politics, and the guy flat out asked me, he's like, do you think he's doing a good job? I was like, yes. And I felt like very confident in saying that, and he was like, really? Oh, no. Like, it was just like, oh, all right, I'll never see you again. Like, like, that's that, unfortunately, but I mean, for a first date, I guess it's kind of heavy to talk politics, but like, whatever, it's a big freaking part of my life right now.
yeah.
It's a big part of everybody's life, and like, I mean, I have to report on it, so I can't turn it off even if I want to.
Yeah, and I think when it is so divisive, it's worth kind of it's worth picking at it, like you said, it's a first date. But you know what? If he's going to find out on the third date you voted for Trump and he's going to run the other way, and you've already invested 3 dates in him,
Yeah.
if it's something like he can get over and he goes, oh, well, that's interesting, tell me more, I don't agree with you, hey, do you want to go out next week? It's a kind of a good thing, because I made a new friend a few months ago. I thought it was a new friend, and I was like, oh, this person seems very decent.
Mm-hmm.
And we got into the politics talk, and they stormed out of where we were, learning that I didn't think that, guns were, to ban guns was the best solution. And that made them storm out. And the funny thing was, there was someone behind us at the restaurant that we were at that wasn't a part of our conversation at all. But as soon as that person stormed out, this other person was like, hey, I'm on that person's side, but that was crazy. What a crazy reaction. And then we ended up being friends. And
oh my God, I love it.
Talking and just being like, yeah, you know what? We don't agree on anything really, but that is a level of nuts that,
Yeah.
we just don't need it. So yeah, if people are gonna be that reactive, it's kind of good to know ahead of time.
Yeah, definitely. It's that, Trump derangement syndrome that they talk about all the time.
Yeah.
And I like, you can see it happening. Like you can see it and you can feel it. But like if it gets to the point where like a conservative, like, you know, every little thing, oh, Trump derangement syndrome, Trump derangement, like over and over again, it's like, all right already, like change the record, please, you know. And I'm sorry, that's kind of just like where I'm going with like wanting to talk to, you know, more conservatives too, because, you know, like we all can't, like you were saying, like you can't agree on everything all the time, and like, but you find points where you do, and you find hinge points, and you work on those, and you know, discuss other things. But like if you can't call out the bad behavior in your own camp,
right.
you know, like then you're, you know, you're without hope, I guess.
You gain credibility and respect, I think, when people understand that you're not just coming after them. You know, it's like, come after me and I'll go after you too. And, you know, whatever, it's a back and forth. There's things that I look at and I go, thank God this happened. This can unify us right now. And the fact that it's not is crazy. Like, I understand that people don't like Trump, and I understand that people absolutely love Trump and think he can do no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I find moments like when he was walking up the steps to Air Force One and had the toilet paper on his foot.
Yes.
I'm like, everyone can laugh at this. And
yes.
This is so great. And, you know, making, you know, you can make all the Make America Great Again jokes about it, or, you know, whatever you want to do. Let's unite on this front and let's laugh. It's the people that are like, oh, that's so disrespectful, this video shouldn't be shared. It's like, no, get over it.
Right.
Get over it. It's funny, you know.
We live in a farce anyway. Like, why? Might as well have the commander-in-chief with toilet paper on his shoe. Like, why not? You know.
I look at that and I'm just like, this is a beautiful moment. Let's all. I live for this.
That's amazing.
You can't get behind it. You're too far gone. That's the cringe, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's so much to laugh at in this world, but like, people are like, literally like no fun zoning everything. It's like, no, you can't laugh at that. But let me laugh at Jimmy Kimmel, who said like, let's cut off Brett Kavanaugh's penis. Like, what? Like, how is that funny, Jimmy? Right. What the hell? You know, like,
that's a really, really sad trend is seeing people that could be funny or were funny just come out with angry statements that have no, you know, it's like, oh, Trump's statements were as tasteless as bad apple pie. Like, what? That's not funny. It's not witty. It's nothing. Like, say that same thing, but at least make me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I was talking with a few people over the weekend about the Kavanaugh opening. I guess it was 2 weeks ago for Saturday Night Live with Matt Damon.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a good barometer. It was like, okay, did you laugh at it? And, you know, everyone was like, yes, because it was funny. It was simple. It was calling out all the truths. It was putting everything on display, and just, it was done very well. It was very funny, and they were hitting both sides. Mm-hmm. You know, we need more of that, not anger.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And maybe it's just because social media amplifies the loudest and most obnoxious voices sometimes, you know? So like you kind of see the worst of the worst on display too much. And I know, like, for me personally, I have trouble wondering what is real sometimes, because like my work life is so focused on what's going on that like my respite is social media, you know? And so when I see like such madness, you know, and I see these tweets that I'm like, why did that get like 100,000 likes? I don't understand. You know, like just these incredibly extreme mindsets, like, and if that's my like relaxation mode, then what the hell am I even doing if I'm doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to like delineate which is which sometimes, because kind of torn between two. Like there's been kind of a, I guess in the past couple of years, I want to say since like 2014, there's been this kind of headbutting between, you know, old school journalism, like media, like mainstream, and like online journalism in a way. They're kind of at odds all the time. Like which one's the more real? You know, have you seen any of that kind of unfolding?
Yeah, and I think the online journalism, really, their advantage is that they have the speed, you know, to get it out there, and that's the biggest
Absolutely.
problem. They don't need the the research and the time and the effort that a lot of
Right.
school journalists are used to putting in, which is better reporting, but sometimes that means you're not the first one to the story. Yeah.
Right. Well, the theme of the network that I do work at, we do want to say it doesn't matter if you're first, matters if you're correct,
Yeah.
So even if you're a little bit late, it's fine as long as you get the most correct information out there. But who the hell even knows what's correct anymore? It's just crazy. Did want to maybe just get a couple predictions here. We've got the midterms coming up next month. What do you see? Do you see the blue wave crashing on the shores of New York City? Like, maybe in New York City, but
well, I mean, New York, it's been a tsunami for the past, decades. It just keeps coming. But this is the sort of stuff that I have to admit I'm not good at. I have my gut feelings, but I'm no political pundit by any means. I'm the one that's just looking and observing people and kind of laughing at the way that everyone reacts to things. So by the way that people are reacting and my understanding, my study of the human condition out there, I would say it's not going to be that big of a blue wave.
Yeah.
I think that that's what they're saying because they want it to happen. They're hoping for a wave, but I don't think it's that strong. I don't think it's that big. I think they have the same number of people getting riled up and more riled up and more angry that makes it seem like the wave will be big. But I really see people supporting Republicans and the right and really getting behind Trump and going away with this nonsense and this screaming.
It's just interesting that the candidates who, align with Trump's values that he puts out there, they do very well. I mean, I can't really think of. I mean, I guess the guy who ran against Connor Lamb in Pennsylvania, who was way too right wing for. I can't remember his name. It was an Italian guy. But he, I watched the Connor Lamb versus this guy, and he was like, more guns, more beer, like something like very, very like weirdly right wing. And then you hear Connor Lamb, who was like, I just don't like Nancy Pelosi, and like he won, and it was like fascinating to me. And so there's it's these instances where the Trump rhetoric, for lack of a better word, does win out more so than it doesn't. So you would think that if someone sees that they would take that step back and be like, okay, let's reassess. Like, why does this keep working? But like, why is it that the left most of the time just seems to keep hitting this like insanity note over and over again, like this shrill, like how dare he note? It's this weird thing that just keeps happening, and it's I mean, who are they going to put up in 2020? That's I keep racking my head, like, who do they have?
I do think their best bet is Joe Biden, and I think that there is a reason why people are not thinking of him right now. I think he's trying to stay out as long as possible, and let everyone else battle it out. And I think he'll come in as the savior in the end for that side. And I think he's the one that's going to give Trump the best run for his money. Whether he can win, we'll have to see when time gets closer. But I think Joe Biden's their best bet, and he's kind of safe right now.
It's there's 2 years to go till 2020, and it's one of those things where you guys are running out of time, so because at this point, like I just don't see how people can go up against what Trump had thrown at him and like survive, and that's kind of the interesting thing, like when I think about the election, and especially if Trump does clinch 2020, and I said this in the podcast that came out today, is that people will see like a finish line, because he can't be elected again, so it'll probably be like less of a clusterfuck in those final 4 years should he be president again.
Yeah. I think it'll be really interesting to see who the Republicans put in after Trump. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if he paved enough of a way for, just that the ideals, if you will, of the right, that someone like Nikki Haley could jump in. And I don't think the right is going to be blessed with anyone that's as able to bounce everything off of him as Trump has been.
Right.
he doesn't care. And he went in to 2016, just he didn't want it, and I think that's what made him get it, is that he said, I don't care what happens, I'm going to go, I'm going to stir the pot, I don't care what happens. And people went, wow, we love it, yeah, we don't care about his past, we don't care about what he said, he's the man for us. And I think, he wasn't planning on winning that, but that's why he won. And I think it'll be hard to find another politician who's willing to put themselves into the fire like that,
Totally.
and
Yeah.
completely demolished and still be okay.
Yeah. It's also interesting, like, because Trump came about in the political climate where it was, like perhaps by the time 2024 rolls around, like maybe, I'm staying hopeful that, yeah, maybe we will be able to have these conversations that, it seems that you and I both would like to have with the quote unquote other side, and maybe by the time 2024 needs its candidate, like, we'll be ready for like a Rand Paul who was a bit more moderate and libertarian in a way, which he was my guy before it all. Like, I liked him the best. I still like him, but no one was ready for Ron Paul.
Yeah.
No one was ready for Rand, so
he was way before his time. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to me that I feel like you and I see things very similarly in a way, and that it just comes from like observing who we're observing on Twitter, and I think that's really cool. Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, that was, yeah, let's keep going out there and having fun. I think I've focused so much on that, and sometimes I find myself being unkind in having fun, and I'm trying not to do that some more. And I think that's really important, because that's never my intention. I never want to be personally mean to anyone. Sometimes it can come across as that. I think sometimes people are outrageous and they need to be called out. These
Right.
people saying, yeah, get violent with the Republicans and kill them. No, they need to be called out, and you can be personal with that.
Right.
Say, hey, that's not smart at all. But other than that, I think there's somewhere we need to find kindness and humor and politics, mash them all together, and I think that's where we're going to unite, and that's kind of where I'm not perfect at it at all, but I'd like to continue to have fun and be kind and talk politics. Why not? It's also ridiculous. We might as well laugh along the way.
Well, you're doing a very good job of it. You're keeping me laughing on the Twitter. Like, seriously, I knew I wanted to talk to you. Like, as soon as I saw your Twitter feed, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Like, everything is just so, it's like a fresh kind of humor that is not hit enough, like there's too much like owning the other side versus like ball busting, like that, like that's the most fun. It's so fun to break people's balls. Like, I'm noticing that now. Like, in my work life, like there's this one guy, like, I like breaking his balls a little. Like, he's totally harmless, but like I can kind of be a dick to him, and he just takes it with good humor because I'm not like, you fucked it up again, but you know.
Yeah, I think teasing does everyone good,
Yeah, oh, totally.
They tease you back. I think it's great. I think it's unifying. That's how you make friends,
Hell yeah, I agree. Well, Kate, thank you so much for joining me. I very much appreciate it. This was a great chat, and I'd love to have you on again if you are so willing to.
Absolutely, Gina. I
Awesome.
Can't thank you enough. This was such a fun conversation.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ginescast. A very big thank you again to Kate for joining me on this cast. Please follow her on Twitter at KateHydeNY. You won't be disappointed. I have other people that I've been reaching out to in order to have a conversation with them and an interview with them. I'd love to have Kate back. We had a great chat here, and I think we could have a million more. This weekend, Saturday, October 20th and 21st, is Politicon 2018, which I will be going to. So if you were listening to this on the Wednesday it came out, we'll be doing a live stream, probably Thursday night, in order to discuss which panels you want to see or hear about or have me discuss. I'm not sure yet, but that's what we're doing here, and I hope to maybe talk to people who want to talk to me and maybe find some more people to interview on this here cast. It's going really well, and I'm really glad that you're here listening to it. The Ginescast comes out every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you like this cast, please give it a like, leave a comment below, or share it with someone you think would like it. If you want more from me, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and Gab at hellogines, or shoot me an email at gina.annunziato at gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ginescast. I'm your host, Gina Annunziato, and I'll see you next time. Take care.